On this Epiphany Sunday, we recall the source story that spoke to us of people who saw light and who went to try to understand its meaning. Our scripture is the familiar one from Matthew chapter 2. I'll be reading the words in yellow and invite you to read those in white. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who's been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him."
When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him.
When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written.
But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a Savior who will shepherd my people Israel."
Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared.
He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him."
After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was.
When they saw the star, they were overjoyed.
On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route.
If you diagram this Epiphany story and you consider how it all came about, I see really just a few basics. These wise men, these magi from the east, had to be looking for something. They had some reason to believe there was something to look for. They had heard promises and predictions, maybe the specific ones about the Messiah of Judah. Maybe they were just the kind of people who expected something new from God. They expected it, so they were on the lookout for it. Secondly, once they saw what they believed to be a sign, they started their journey. Tradition tells us it was a long journey. It took them quite some time to travel the distance, which meant they had to leave so much other behind them. This wasn't jumping in the car and running to Bloomington kind of trip. This was life-altering. This put everything else, maybe not even on the back burner, but off the stove altogether. Our top priority is to go and see this thing that has happened. So they believed there was something to look for, and when they saw it, they got up and went looking. The third thing you can see here in this expedition is the fact that they also had some idea of what to look for. When they came to Jerusalem, they weren't sure where they were going. They weren't really well versed in the traditional stories, but they knew they were looking for a new king, even though that's not what Jesus would be. They knew they were looking for a child. They were willing to ask for directions, and we could talk a little bit about that. And fourth, when they actually found it, they knew that they found it. And our traditional understanding is that they fell to their knees and offered what they treasured. Things that had great symbolic meaning. Things that came from their sense of devotion. Things that represented their relative humility compared to the grandeur of the Christ child. They were looking for something. When they saw it, they started moving. They knew what they were looking for. Asked for help. And when they found it, they fell to their knees. You wonder what might prevent us from an epiphany. This is 2020. This is the year of perfect vision, right? Is there still something inside you that wants to see God more clearly? That wants to understand your place more clearly? Is there still something in you that believes that you still have something more to offer, but you're just not sure what? Are you waiting for an epiphany, for God to shine a light and so that you can see, aha, I get it. This is my next great journey in pursuit of something God has always intended for me. I think there are some things that might prevent us from making that kind of epiphany journey. What comes to mind are what I'll call the 3 T's. First one is, I'm too busy. I'm too busy to go in search of anything. Too busy to think about it. Too busy to leave anything else behind. Too busy to set aside what I've decided are my priorities. Too busy doing whatever it is I'm doing to really look for anything new. Too busy. You've heard it, I've heard it, retired people. Too busy. I don't know how I used to have time to go to work. Too busy. Too busy. Falling into a routine, keeping appointments, doing whatever the kids and grandkids ask me to do, volunteering here, working a little there. None of it a bad thing, all of it a wonderful, great thing, but I'm too busy to make room for some new epiphany of how I really should be spending my time and offering my gifts. Too busy. Often because we're too busy and for other reasons that we could name, sometimes we're too tired. Some of us have noticed that the years have made a difference. Just don't necessarily have the same energy levels. We find it requires a lot more to get us moving. And that the concept of change is sometimes a little less appealing than it might have been. I'm too busy, I'm too tired. Life's already worn me out. I already gave at the office. I think I've already made my journey. I think if God's going to give me an epiphany, God's going to have to come to me where I am right now. I want the mountaintop experience, I just don't want to climb the mountain. I've done my share. I'm tired. Too tired. Understandable. In the midst of some of my worst of the sick days in December at home, it would have literally taken a fire in the house to get me to leave the house. I mean, too tired, too wore out, no motivation. A third T, it really comes to me from a passage from that poem we shared last week from Ada Limon, The Dead Stars, where she invites us in our effort to shine again like the stars we once were, to quit being terrified. Terrified is a big word. Terrified is a big word, but I think the essence of being terrified is that I'm immobilized. I am so scared I can't move. I won't move. I'm scared to move. I'm scared for anything else in my life to change. Well, largely because so many of the changes that have occurred recently have all been bad news, forcing me to deal with realities I've never wanted to face, forcing me to accept things that I still really haven't accepted. I'm terrified. I find myself at times not at all excited when the phone rings, because it does seem the longer I live, the more often an actual phone call is bad news. And I get tired of bad news. Terrified. When the phone rings, someone knocks on the door. Someone says, I really need to talk to you about something. And when you're terrified, you're not exactly primed and ready to get up and go in search of some new promise. I'm going to huddle here in the corner and hope to survive another day. Hope that nobody hurts me today. Hoping that nothing disappoints me today. Hoping that nobody asks me to do anything today because I just don't think I got it. Sometimes it's only moments, sometimes it's days. Sometimes we can fall into a long period of just hoping and praying that everybody and everything leaves me alone until I can maybe recuperate. I'm too busy, I'm too tired, I'm terrified. And if there's any epiphany, any good news, any promise that God is about to do a God thing, I'm just not ready for it. And I'm not here to chastise anybody for being too busy or too tired, and certainly not for being terrified. Life is overwhelming. In fact, I would encourage you, if you're too busy, learn to say no. If you're too tired, find a way to get some rest. If you're terrified, find someone to share your fear with. Deal with whatever is happening, because that's a path to healing. Because I am certain that there are still epiphanies waiting for each of us. And sometimes those epiphanies are simply waiting for us to believe they're possible, to see them, to get up and go searching for them. They're simply waiting for us to figure out what it is we're looking for, so that we can have those moments we experience when the awesomeness of life and the majesty of God simply drives us to our knees in celebration of the wonders that God puts in our path. So if you're too tired, say no. Take care of yourself. If you're too busy, say no. Take care of yourself. If you're terrified, let someone hold your hand. Let someone pray with you. Let someone walk with you through it, so that you can get once more to that place where you have an open mind, an open heart, and some open time in your schedule, where there is room and hope and anticipation, where you can find the courage and the energy and the faith to believe that God has an epiphany for you, an aha moment, a mountaintop experience, a life-changing, yes, life-changing opportunity that will take you to a deeper level, a more glorious experience of God, a more fulfilling opportunity for you to live your life as you were created to live it. It takes faith to believe it's possible. It takes courage to get up and go looking for it. It takes some wisdom to know what to look for. But it only takes God to make it all possible. Let's go and see this thing that has happened. Let's follow the light that God shines in our path and believe that there is something even more majestic and more glorious to see. And that glorious, majestic thing will be us. A week from now, a month from now, a year from now, living more fully the life we were created to live. Dig down deep and believe that. Let us pray. Here we are, oh God, each of us in our own moments of our lives, through our own stages, dealing with our own challenges, facing our own opportunities, sometimes too busy, sometimes too bored, sometimes too excited, sometimes too scared, sometimes so enthusiastic that we jump before looking, and sometimes so worn out we won't jump at all. Each of us, oh God, still your child, still finding within us enough faith to believe that you still have lessons and inspiration for each of us. Allow us, oh God, to find within ourselves the path to healing that will give us the opportunity, the energy to go and search and find this new thing, this new epiphany, this great sign of what you're doing in the world for us and through us. In Jesus' name.